Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about Joseph Campbell's 4 functions of the epic hero. And these are functions that people are forgetting about. People never bother learning in the first place. And this is why we're seeing such a decline in our modern day heroes. We talk about that a lot on this channel in the different aspects, but this is one reason. This is a quantifiable reason. You can look at, specifics of what people are missing and getting wrong with today's heroes. So Joseph Campbell obviously talks a lot about heroes and the stages that they comprise. There are different sets of stages of the hero's journey, depending on which comparative mythologist you talk to. But this is just one aspect that he talks about. And he talks about specifically the epic heroes. So heroes of mythology, epic heroes, your Gilgamesh, your Heracles, and so forth, your King Arthur, Arthur and such and forth. But the big difference between ancient mythologies and today's heroes, as we've said many times on this channel, is that our heroes are no longer our religion, right? We're a society now of multiple religions and belief systems. Whereas before, mythology was that culture's religion, for the most part. I mean, that was part of the cohesiveness of a culture. Now we have a society that has to find a way to come together and share values, share aspirations and taboos that don't necessarily come from one religion, that can abide different religions and different belief systems so long as they're not too disparate. And the way we've answered that in Western society, in America in particular, is with fiction, fictionalized heroes, characters and stories. And we saw that blossom. It's really interesting when you look at the beginning of America. For a while, we tried to mythologize the world leaders, the heroes, which was easier to do in those days without the news traveling so fast and whatnot. There's a lot more room for story and whatnot. And it's fascinating, some of those stories that crop up. Eventually, we moved on to some sort of fictionalized stories, but the thing was, the country was so regionalized that the mythology of, say, New England wasn't necessarily going to be the same as the mythology of Virginia or something like that. Folk tales and stories like that they would try to use to bring themselves together. As soon as we became a true nation with a national mentality, and we had the media and the technology to really bind that culture together, then we saw the rise very soon after of comic book superheroes. And that's why I argue that comic book superheroes are the closest thing we have these days to a cultural national mythology. Whether people read them or not, whether people go see the movies or not, they're going to be cognizant of certain aspects of certain characters, the values and whatnot, at least at one time. That's falling apart now, and we're seeing the consequences. But so let me get back to the specifics here of these epic hero functions. So I bring that up that there's a difference there because our modern day heroes are going to have to fulfill these epic hero functions in a slightly different way than somebody like Heracles or Osiris or somebody like that would have in olden times. So the first function of an epic hero is the metaphysical function. And basically, again, I'm reducing these down. These are things that Joseph Campbell's written a lot about and everything like that, but I'm just reducing them down for the sake of this YouTube video. So if you're interested, go look them up, learn more about them. There's a lot more to learn. The metaphysical function is basically, how was the universe created? How was this world created? Now, you can imagine that's easy to see in a lot of ancient mythologies. Heracles, like I said, the son of Zeus. And according to Greek culture, Zeus created humanity. So there's that built into his story. It's built into his character. You can go back and look at, same thing with Thor. Odin created humanity and all that kind of thing. So there's the metaphysical aspect to it. Today's heroes, sometimes that can be built in, with a science fiction aspect to it. You go back to a certain alien race that originally inhabited Earth and colonized it or whatever, and that's who we sprang from or something like that. Sometimes you'll have something like that. Other times the metaphysical function is kind of built into the next one. And the next one is the cosmological function. And basically, Joseph Campbell's cosmological function of the epic hero is to not only show us how the universe was created, but give us a sense of wonder about the universe. The epic hero and their story should provide us a sense of wonder. This is a wondrous place to be in, this universe. There's creation is just magnificent and astounding to live in. And we see that, with ancient myth. We see that with Gilgamesh. We see that, Skip on Heracles, as he's our ancient example there. Think about all the things he goes through, the nations he travels to, the wars. He's one of the Argonauts, and stuff like that. He's enters into the underworld, all these kinds of things. So, a wonderment about creation and what it is around us. This is often seen in today's heroes by somebody like Superman. I mean, Superman's traveling to all different kinds of, not just countries, obviously, but planets, so we see that a lot. And look how wondrous the solar system is, that kind of thing. But there's one difference that we see, and this is one decline in modern day heroes, especially the way writers and filmmakers are handling our heroes now. They no longer like this cosmological function. Look how wondrous the universe is. Now there's a very nihilistic view going on. Specifically a nihilistic view in terms of humanity, right? They somehow think that it's too ethnocentric to put humanity at the center of our story. So we need to be woke and, think of the rights of these fictional alien races that don't even exist. It's ridiculous. You think of, look at the original Thor movie, for example. Even if you don't know much about Thor in the comics, the original Thor movie, you had Odin, you had Thor coming to Midgard, and Thor chose Midgard. Midgard wasn't just another one of the 9 realms. Midgard was special. There was something special about it that changed Thor, that drew Thor back, and it wasn't just Jane Foster. Midgard has a special place for Thor. You look at what Marvel's done in the last couple films with the Infinity, or Endgame rather, and you look at where they're going now with a lot of the movies they've talked about, the Eternals and further Guardians and stuff like that. Earth is just a backwater planet. Earth needs to get it together. And you see this a lot with the SJW crowd whenever there's a president in office that they don't like, suddenly we don't like being American, we don't like being Western, we don't like being anything that would remotely link us to this president that we don't like. It's ridiculous. Presidents come and go. Your pride in your country is something that should be deeper than that. Your pride in the Western culture, your pride in, greater culture, your pride in, freaking humanity itself, if you're going to write a science fiction type of story. But there's that nihilism that creeps in. I'm not happy with the world, therefore nothing good in it exists, So cosmological function is a big fail. The third function, and this is the one that the woke writers of today's heroes love. This is the one that they expand and try to substitute it for the whole of all of these functions. And this is the sociological function. Yes, heroes do have epic heroes should fulfill the function of teaching us how to interact in society, right? How to interact with each other in different scenarios, manners, values, all the kind of stuff we talk about on this channel. That's basic, right? Basic. And it has a place. It has a place in hero stories, Superman teaches us how to be a good citizen, to some degree. But when you take that and you expand it and you substitute that one function for all 4, that's when you get this woke nonsense BS about, Thor trying to teach us the importance of, this or that. I'm trying to think of some of the examples I've seen recently, but, teaching us that gender is really just something you can identify with, and it's flexible, it's fluid, and blah, 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 and whatever the current hot topic political, socio-political issues are. You get them trying to use superheroes as the mouthpiece for the writer's own personal soapbox about it. That's not the sociological function. That's political propaganda. That's not even the sociological function. So in trying to substitute that, they kill it even in itself. So the sociological function is important, but people overdo it to the point where it's no longer the sociological function. The fourth and final epic hero function is the pedagogical function. And this one is a little harder to explain. You can go into some different aspects of it. One I'm going to focus on here is that the epic hero teaches us how to respond to the different stages of life. So even a hero, look at Frodo, right? Frodo from the Lord of the Rings. if you read the book, you do see him pretty much into older age. I mean, he doesn't get as old as, say, Bilbo was, but he, you know, we see him start as this wide-eyed youth and full of wonder for the world, and he goes through things that change him, that do give him a burden, but he doesn't become jaded by it. It does have a mark on him, and eventually it allows him to sail across from Middle Earth, sail across to the west with the elves, and, you know, go on to a reward, and that's good. You know, it's a maturing of his character, and characters, you know, all of our superheroes, we see that as well when they're allowed to grow older. You know, this constant rebooting, like, the character reached 30, we got to make him a teenager again. You know, we always see that with Spider-Man quite often, like that. But the point is, characters should be allowed to grow older. Not only grow older, but they should be allowed to get married. Dan DiDio, did you hear that? They should be allowed to get married and have lives like everybody who reads them does. Nonsense. The kind of mentalities that go into these creators and editors, and it's just ridiculous. But that's the pedagogical function, you know? If you're going to be a Superman, yeah, we need to see him as Clark Kent in Smallville. We need to see him as Clark Kent starting out in Metropolis. We need to see him as, sure, absolutely. We also need to see him getting married to Lois Lane. What does that look like? You know, what can he teach us about that? What does it look like when he becomes a father? What can he teach us about that? That's a thing. People become fathers in real life, and their heroes can teach them how to do that if you let them. So stuff like that. The pedagogical function is often just stunted. Lets you know, no, old people are boring. Let's make them cool, young, and edgy and dark. You know, so you look at these 4 epic hero functions as just one example of how many ways that that current writers and editors and filmmakers just have no concept of how to write a hero, how to basically write a hero anymore. They become mouthpieces for their politics. They become these weird, bizarre, nostalgic wish fulfillments for their own youth, and how awesome it was to be dark and edgy or whatever. Or they become sort of weird therapeutic mouthpieces for the writer's own nihilism. It's just, the writers need to get the hell out of the way of these characters and let the characters be what they're meant to be, what public needs them to be. Because our heroes are falling away. No one gives a crap about these characters anymore. I mean, who can honestly respect Thor now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Who can don't even try and tell me you can, because you can't. It's ridiculous. And you see that over and over again, certainly in the comics as well. So that's all for this video. I'm not going to go on too long. Do check out my my own graphic novel, and I'm about to launch a new campaign, a pre-campaign. The campaign will start proper next month, but the pre-campaign will start now as I'm wrapping up and getting Tales from the Stacks printed and shipped and everything like that here in a little bit. But check out Tales from the Stacks. Link is at the end of the video and in the description below. And stay tuned for the Fall of Mithrisis, which that pre-campaign will start soon. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching. By now, chances are you've probably heard of and hopefully ordered your copy of my graphic novel, Tales from the Stacks. But in case this is the first you're hearing of it, it is still in demand on Indiegogo, but it will not be available forever. The in-demand store is closing down later this month as we prepare for fulfillment and for the new campaign for the new book launching in the fall. Tales from the Stacks is a collection of 3 of my uncanny suspense stories in the vein of The Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, and such. They are introduced by a mysterious librarian who's welcomed you into the inner stacks of the library where they keep such tales. And it features interior art by an amazing collection of talent. Illustrator monk Dave T., the great Kyung Lee, and another artist I haven't even announced yet. And of course the variant covers are still available, Kyung Lee's famous cover, as well as John Malin's amazing work, colored by Kyle Ritter, and then the Dave T. Indiegogo exclusive as well. We have prints, t-shirts, bookmarks by Pablo Romero. So if you haven't checked out the campaign page, or if you haven't checked it out in a while, swing by and see if there's any new content you might have missed. Thanks for helping us reach so many of the stretch goals, and we'll see if we can't reach another one before it ends.